What's happening, family? It is your man, CRB Jr. here at Motown Mafia Podcast, a Big Boss Filmworks production. Hope all is well. I am here having a kind of bitter-sweet moment. I am here in Harlem, New York, Harlem, USA, on 125th Street between 8th Avenue and Lenox. I'm sitting in front or standing across the street from the Mart 125, which has definitely seen better days. Really confused about why the Mart is looking like this. As you see, the rest of 125th Street is like the heart of gentrification. Directly across the street from the Mart is, Banana Republic, Red Lobster. Back across the street, the Gap. You got the Foot Locker and Kids Foot Locker and all of the above. You got Blink is here now. And of course, the world famous Apollo Theater, right? But back to the Mart. The Mart is where my entrepreneurial career began. So I'm going to have a spoiler alert for all the good people of Harlem that supported me. July 15th, 1993. At the time, I was working for Dad. I was also running a whole district for the Gap because, it was a really good cover for the things that Pop was doing. And anyway, a friend of mine had put me on it. There was this incubator location for small black businesses called the Mart 125. And I went and I checked it out. I loved the idea. I saw as soon as I walked in, back in the day when you would walk into the Mart, the first thing that you would see would be Black Man's Jeweler. Shout out to Brother Blue. Blue was a big fella up in Harlem. I believe Blue was initially from Brooklyn. But he had a huge, it was a legitimate, it was the first, be honest, and I've seen a lot and been a lot of places. It was the first black man I ever saw that really had a legitimate first-class jewelry store set up right inside the Mart 125. Extensive collection of Rolexes, diamonds, the whole thing. And him and his crew actually were doing like the repairs and sales. It was a real thing. It wasn't a front. I think Brother Blue was getting plenty of bread, but the jewelry shop was a real thing. Black Men's Jeweler. Then you went a little further in the Mart. There was a half Dominican, half Puerto Rican brother by the name of Carlos. He was known as Spanish Avenue. Like downtown had Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue, but up here in Harlem we had Spanish Avenue, and Spanish Ave had all of the Avarex and the Paleys and the Torah, just an extensive leather jacket store. And everybody came through and would holler at Spanish Ave. Then in the backs, you had another brother doing some unique stuff, a brother named Sticks. Shout out to Sticks. He was the furrier. Then we had a sister, Tracy. She had a brother from Antigua running her shop. It was just cool. So anyway, I came in. I'd had success working for some of my Israeli friends in this line of clothes or underwear known as Joe Boxer. Joe Boxer was a big deal in the 80s and the 90s. And nobody in Harlem, it was kind of at that time only kind of like, to be honest, it was like for rich white folks were the only people hip to this Joe Boxer line of expensive men, like boxer shorts, and then they went into t-shirts and all kind of housewear, outerwear. So through my Israeli friends, they introduced me to the people who ran Joe Boxer. I told them I wanted to bring the concept uptown, and they laid me out with all the inventory and all the point of sales, TVs that said Joe Boxer. And it worked, man. It worked. Harlem received the idea, but because nobody had ever seen or heard of Joe Boxer at the time in Harlem, people thought they thought it was like a brother who had started his own line of boxer shorts. And I'll be honest, and I kind of let the I let the rumor spread, and brothers would just start calling me Joe. In fact, brother Muhammad, shout out to Muhammad. Muhammad used to run Blues Jewelry Shop, and he just started calling me Joe. It stuck. And as Joe Boxer, the line would grow, people would see me and they thought it was actually my company. And even though Lord knows I sold a ton of boxer shorts, I did not own Joe Boxer, even though it was known in these parts that that Courtney owned, well, that Joe, aka Courtney Jr., owns this boxer short company. But, and later, anyway, it's nothing like bringing a moral of the story. You know something that's hot somewhere else, but it's got no exposure somewhere else, and you think it might fit. And again, timing is everything. Right then in like mid-90s, the whole trend of kind of the baggy jeans and not sagging, but just enough to where you could like see if you were wearing like designer boxer shorts, you could see the band around your waist. That trend that just came in, and Joe Boxer was branding their boxer shorts in such a way, and they just had some cool designs, and it worked. The timing was just right. Let's see, over here I think it's GameStop. That used to be the Apollo signature. They had really high-end stuff. In fact, later, much to their chagrin, even though we ended up doing some business together, and then later I would strike lightning again. The first guy to bring Joe Boxer uptown to Harlem. And at this time, a little bit later in 95, Coogi sweaters had, really taken off. Bill Cosby had already been wearing them on his show. But then the Notorious B.I.G. Biggie Small, rest in peace, Christopher Wallace, and it's his famous lyrics, doing better now, Coogi sweater now. Coogi socks, rings and watch filled with rocks, Coogi down to my socks, and such. Harlem would not, Coogi would not open up any accounts in Harlem. And through my big homie back home, he knew a guy in Detroit who had a Coogi shop and had the authentic account. He was operating down above Fishbones in the International Center. He networked us together. We parlayed and figured it out. He was actually having a little time moving his Coogis in Detroit, which, was just a location thing, I think, above Fishbones. People just didn't know he was there. But later, anyway, we linked up. I started buying my Coogis from him. He'd get them from Coogi, put on a little ticket, 10-15% surcharge. I'd take them, brought them back to Harlem, and man, when Blue would give his parties and his crew, everybody treated me well. Me and Coogi Sweaters did our thing right here at the Mart 125. So it saddens me again to see the Mart in this condition. I think the city owns the property. Excuse me, family, this is what happened. We got the sounds of the city behind us. But wow, I'm gonna do some investigating, get with some of the fellas and see what is going on with the Mart. It was such a great idea. I mean, it was a great incubator. I forgot, we had Kelly's Soul Food up on the second floor. Wow, it was just some great memories. It was a great vibe. It was maybe 25 African-American entrepreneurs in there. Shout out to Sam Adams. Sam Adams was the manager of the Mart back in the day. So, again, just here in Harlem, Big Boss Filmworks, Motown Mafia podcast, Money Mondays, having some memories, back in my own stomping grounds. Obviously Harlem's got all the history in the world. Back at the same time when I dropped the Coogis, shout out to the big homie Kevin Childs. His boss Emporium was right down the street. It was just a lot of action going on, man. Harlem in the 90s, you guys have heard all the stories, and none of it is exaggerated. So good to be back. Little sad seeing my Mart in this kind of shape. Maybe it'll be one of my last little ventures. I'd love to be a part of something about getting the Mart back on its feet. Same kind of concept, It was America's first really like all black mall. It was something. Anyway, little story, but yeah, and family. Courtney Brown Jr. is not Joe Boxer, and it was not my company, even though me and Joe Boxer did good work. And shout out to all of Harlem. Harlem treated me really, really well. So, it's your man, CRB Jr., live, Harlem, New York, signing off. Big Boss Filmworks, Motown Mafia podcast. Holla at your man. Peace.